Showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats.
Showtime!
Please make your way to your seats. The show is about to begin.
Showtime!
Let the magic begin.
Hydrogen-powered air taxis take flight. What's going on with this?
Yeah, so this company called Joby, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Joby Aviation, they've hit a major milestone on the road to launching their all-electric air taxi service. Keep in mind, it says all-electric, but it's using hydrogen fuel. So last week, they completed an impressive 523-mile flight on a single charge of hydrogen fuel cells and batteries. And so we'll dive into a little bit about why this matters. So Joby's air taxi uses 5 tilting rotors for vertical takeoff and forward flight. It's designed to carry 4 passengers and a pilot up to 200 miles per hour. And it has a maximum range of over 300 miles. And they've recently gained FAA certification, which is really good. And how it's powered is it uses hydrogen fuel cells to power electric motors. The fuel cells are 10 times more energy dense than batteries. And so it allows for a longer range than a battery-only aircraft. And the cool thing, as we all know, hydrogen produced from renewable energy is emissions-free. So it's a record-breaking flight. They flew for 2.5 hours nonstop, which was more than 500 miles, and which is 3 times further than any prior eVTOL test. I don't even know how to say that. eVTOL? I don't know. So really cool. They've got a competitive edge because other taxis are limited to under 100-mile flights. This allows direct city-to-city hops without recharging. So it doesn't have to be within the city. And it avoids need for excess vertiports and battery swapping and all that sort of stuff because it's hydrogen fuel cell powered, right? So their plan is to get certification for air taxi service by 2025. And they partner with Toyota, which I think Toyota is the one with the ammonia engine as well. So it's interesting to see. Yeah.
Sorry, the link we were using is not there anymore. So I wonder if there's an issue overall with this particular product, but I found another one. So we can put it up on screen there. How does this aircraft compare to traditional helicopters, planes in terms of size, capacity, capabilities?
Yeah, well, it's smaller and lighter than most conventional helicopters. It's got room, like I said, for 4 passengers and a pilot. A traditional helicopter can often lift 6 to 8 people. The thing with the aircraft is it's powered only by electric motors running on hydrogen fuel cell and batteries. So there's no jet turbine, there's no piston engine, which makes it simpler and quieter with 0 emissions. So there's advanced software as well and stabilization systems, which replace the need for a co-pilot and make it orientable for vertiport gates to destination. The other thing, too, is it doesn't have a rear rotor. So there's less, I think, there's less of a chance that there's critical failures for this because, with a helicopter, you have your rear rotor that if that thing fails, your helicopter's spinning out of control. So it seems like this one might be a little bit more reliable.
So when do you think people will be able to start taking flights on a regular basis?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So they're aiming, obviously, I said they're aiming to achieve certification in 2025. But the thing is there's no network for this yet. So they're going to need to build out a full network of ports, vertiports, we'll call them, in the target cities. I'm guessing New York might be one, maybe not. That infrastructure rollout might take 1 to 2 years beyond the certification. But again, what's the cost going to be? But as I was doing some research, some analysis predicts it might take up to 2030 for air taxis to really take hold for everyday travel, which isn't that far away. Like we're talking 6 years, right? So realistically, mass market, we're looking maybe 2030s, same time that they're planning to launch the mission to Mars.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I work with hover drones and they've pivoted a lot, but they do a lot of drone work in the Toronto area and stuff.
Who's the guy at Hover Drones?
Cameron Rowe.
Shout out to Cameron Rowe.
And we've talked a lot about delivery service and what kind of space you would need to be able to deliver stuff to homes or apartment buildings or a festival. What do you need to like a veriport to take off and land, say in a city like Toronto?
Well, here's the thing. They can use existing helipads, apparently, as long as there's sufficient clearance for the rotors, which have around a 35 to 40 foot diameter. The vertiports will probably need to have charging equipment on site, like hydrogen refueling or electrical recharging, just because they're going to need some redundancies because in case, they're running low. They're going to need the ability to access aircraft on the both sides for loading and maintenance, space for aircraft maneuvering on the ground. So the vehicles, they don't need long runways. They just need room to taxi kind of thing. So they're going to need adequate lighting and marking, obviously, and communications capabilities. I'm guessing they could probably just integrate current avionics into these. So that shouldn't be too big of a challenge.
So this aircraft landed with 10% of its hydrogen load remaining at the 523 test.
Wow.
Miles.
Okay, so they could have gone longer.
I guess so. I guess they're just, being safe.
I'd be safe too with that for sure.
So this range is great, but how does hydrogen fuel compare to jet fuel in terms of cost?
Yeah, that's a good question. I
assume from an environmental impact that we're near zero with the hydrogen.
So hydrogen produced from renewable energy costs around, from what I read, $5 to $7 per kilogram. Jet fuel is around $3 to $4 per gallon. So hydrogen is competitive, or based on the math, if I'm doing it quickly, it's slightly more expensive right now, but costs are projected to decline. But there's so much more benefits, right? You've got emissions, sustainability that just come with using hydrogen over jet fuel, cleaner, all that sort of stuff, right? But yeah, it's slightly more expensive, but I don't know if we take into account the range that you get, if it's the same cost, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look, do a little work on the numbers there. I like that this is potentially going to increase the hydrogen infrastructure, because that's always, to me, the limiting factor for us to progress. This says the company, Joby, plans to start commercial operations in 2025 using the battery electric air taxi. So with the other one shortly behind, I'm not sure when it'll be behind.
Yeah.
So interesting. Obviously, you're going to need some sort of special pilot's license, and rules are going to have to be applied. Did they say what countries they're focused on first?
No, it doesn't say that. But yeah, there's going to be new training required, new certification, all that sort of stuff, emergency procedures, medical requirements, recurrent training, test flying. Like, obviously, fundamental aviation skills will transfer over, but operating these will require specialized training, in-depth specialized training. But I'm not sure where they're going to focus on next. I'm guessing the US, because the FAA gave them clearance. I'm guessing that's going to be, but who knows?
It'll have to be in a city. They'll have to apply, I guess, and just like Uber did and whatnot, or the self-driving cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. And just on a side note, this is why I use an ad blocker when I do this. I forgot to turn it on. You see all those blinking ads and stuff on the side? I turn it off when I'm doing it, so everyone gets the ads. But when I'm doing this, it's just so distracting.
It is very distracting.
Anyway, this is amazing. I'm looking forward to following this hydrogen taxis and see what kind of competition is out there, because if they're doing it, they're not the only ones. Yeah, and it's always good to see the other competition going and what we'll be able to do in Toronto. Like, if you can take from Burlington to Toronto, from St. Catharines to Toronto, and all of a sudden this becomes a very interesting option if you can do it for a couple $100.
Yeah. Well, the thing to take into account too is we're talking straight lines, right? So they have further range. Like, if you're flying straight from Toronto to Ottawa, you might be able to even do that, because if you take into a straight line kind of thing. So
absolutely. I just don't know the difference between that and a plane between Toronto and Ottawa. And, if you're downtown to downtown, all that kind of stuff, it might be better. But I was thinking more along the lines of
that makes
commuters
sense,
and stuff, right? Where we're saying, all right, I need to get home, or I'm within 100 miles or so of my workplace, and now I can take one of these to get there.
Yeah. Or even going somewhere downtown Toronto because of traffic, right? If you're wanting to go 5 kilometers in Toronto, it takes you 2 hours to drive. It'll take you very little to fly.
So, we have one comment here. Dinner Bell says, yeah, I'll stick to walking and biking. Don't blame you. Don't blame you at all.
Oh, biking in Toronto? No, thank you. I do not trust drivers. I'm scared to bike, but good on you if you are.
Well, the secret to biking in Toronto is one, to know Toronto, and two, to break the rules. And I don't mean that in the what you see the couriers downtown. If you're in the downtown core riding, like in the 4 blocks, that is like insane. You're got a problem. So that area is, difficult, and you probably shouldn't be riding in that area because it's packed all the time and someone's going to hit you. Outside of that area, there's all sorts of ways. Know the streets, ride the side streets, go the wrong way down one-way streets because nobody's on them. And once you know that around Toronto, it's not too bad. I used to live in Toronto, ride my bike everywhere, and it was great. And I agree with Dinner Bells here. I am going to stick to walking and riding my bike.
I do like walking. I do like that. There was actually an article that tested whether or not it was faster to walk or even take the streetcar. I can't remember. I think the outcome was it was faster to walk at that point.
Well, I can tell you it's faster to bike ride than any of those things.
Yeah.
Because in Toronto, several times I was meeting people and we'd have to go around to different locations because we're scouting locations or whatever. And I'd be on my bike, and either, someone would be public transit and someone would be driving. And I'd always be waiting people 20 minutes at the next place, always waiting for everybody because it's just so much faster. It is. So what do you got going on, John?
Absolutely nothing. Not till Futurist, I don't think.
Yeah, we've got the Futures After Party on August 14th. Go to TorontoStarts.com or StartupDrinksTO.com for that. You help people or startups or businesses get government funding. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're a startup, if you're developing tech, if you there's tons of grants out there. I can help you sift through it, help come up with strategies. Most of the time, my job is telling you bad news, that there's really nothing out there because there is a huge disconnect between what a startup is and what the government thinks a startup is. But reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Wow, that was